Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to another lesson. In this lesson, we are going to learn about IELTS Writing Task 1. When it comes to Writing Task 1, the general training students are supposed to write a letter, but the academic students are supposed to write an opinion on a chart, for example, on a bar chart. In that case, the writing task is supposed to be in 4 paragraphs. You have the introductory paragraph. You also have the overview paragraph. And then you have 2 more paragraphs. In the previous lesson, in the previous video, I taught you how to write the introductory paragraph and also how to write the overview. So if you haven't watched that video, I would recommend that you watch that video as well so that you have a complete lesson. So in this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to write the body paragraph 2 and the body paragraph 3. Because remember, we said that a writing task needs to be in 4 paragraphs. Introductory paragraph, the overview paragraph, and then 2 more body paragraphs. Now, what should you put in your body paragraph number 2 and number 3? The first thing you have to do is you have to divide your bar chart details into 2 logical categories, and then you write 1 paragraph based on 1 category, and then you write the second paragraph based on the second category. What do I mean? You have to look at the information that is provided in your chart, and then you have to divide it into 2. For example, in our case, we have cookers, refrigerators, dishwashers, kettles, and microwaves. So we can divide our paragraphs based on the items or the goods that were exported in 2015, because the bar chart shows the amount of money earned by 2 countries on export goods in 2015. So to divide our details, we have to base them on the goods that were exported. In my case, I have decided to group them into the first category is going to be cookers, refrigerators, and microwaves. And in the second category, I'm going to have dishwashers and kettles. Now, once you have divided the details into 2 categories, you then have to begin writing your paragraphs. In my case, then, I have the paragraph about cookers, refrigerators, and microwaves, and this is how to write it. With reference to cookers, Germany earned $50,000 more than Sweden, but Sweden took the lead in terms of the export of refrigerators, having made $150,000 as opposed to Germany, who earned $50,000 only. So in that point, I'm talking about cookers. And then I also talked about refrigerators. And my first point was that with reference to cookers, Germany earned $50,000 more than Sweden. Okay, that's the first point, that Germany earned 50,000 more than Sweden. But then, now I'm using a connector, but Sweden took the lead in terms of the export of refrigerators. So I'm now talking about refrigerators. And that I pointed out that Sweden took the lead in terms of the export of refrigerators, having made $150,000 as opposed to Germany, who earned $50,000 only. So for each particular item, that is cookers, I have to talk about the cookers in terms of Sweden and Germany. And then when I'm talking about refrigerators, I also have to provide information for the two countries, Sweden and Germany. And I have to use numbers to support my claims. So you have with reference to cookers, now I have to talk about the two countries, Germany and 50,000 more than Sweden. I'm comparing them. And then I come on to refrigerators. I point out, but Sweden took the lead in terms of the export of refrigerators. So in terms of cookers, Germany earned more. But when it came to refrigerators, Sweden earned more. That's why I am using the linking words for contrast, but Sweden. Okay, so with reference to cookers, Germany earned 50,000 more than Sweden. But Sweden took the lead in terms of the export of refrigerators. Now I have to provide the numbers to support my claim. So Sweden made $150,000 as opposed to Germany, who earned 50,000 only. So in that example, in that particular sentence, I have used linking words of contrast. So A and this and B and that. So Germany earned 50,000 more than Sweden, but Sweden took the lead in terms of the export of refrigerators, having made $150,000 as opposed to. So, but and as opposed to are two linking words that are contrasting. Okay, they are contrasting Germany to Sweden in terms of cookers and refrigerators. And let's move on. In regard to microwaves, so now I'm talking about microwaves. Germany nearly tripled their earnings, making around $2,000 compared to Sweden, whose total earnings were $75,000. So I'm now talking about microwaves, and then I have to compare the two countries. So for each particular item, cookers, I compared the two countries. Refrigerators, I did the same. And then microwaves, I'm going to do the same. So in regard to microwaves, Germany nearly tripled. They made nearly 3 times, okay, more, which was around $2,000 compared to Sweden, who made 75,000. So when you're not sure of the numbers, let's say there is, you're not sure it's 250 or it's 200, then you can use around, okay? Their earnings making around $2,000, okay? So what I have done in that paragraph, for each of the items, I have compared how both countries performed. I talked about cookers, and then I compared how both countries performed, and I used contrasting linking words such as but. With reference to cookers, Germany earned 50,000 more than Sweden. Okay, so for each item, make sure that you compare the two countries and use linking words to do that. And you can, another point is when you're introducing each item, you can use words such as with reference to cookers or in regard to microwaves. Okay, now let's move on to the body paragraph 3. So this particular paragraph now, I'm going to talk about the other two items, and that is dishwashers and kettles. On the other hand, remember the reason why I am using on the other hand is because in the previous paragraph, Germany was leading, okay? In regard to microwaves, Germany nearly tripled their earnings, making around $2,000 compared to Sweden, whose total earnings were $75,000. So I ended that paragraph with Germany on top. Now, in the next paragraph, Sweden is going to be on top, and that's why I am using the linking word on the other hand. Sweden exported more dishwashers than Germany, which was around $150,000 and $75,000 respectively. On the other hand, Sweden exported more dishwashers than Germany. Now, once I have that's a claim, I have to support it with numbers, which was around. Around means approximately. Approximately $150,000 and $75,000 respectively. Respectively means the first one is for the first country, that is Sweden, and then 75. The other one is for Germany, respectively. Okay, so $150,000 is for Sweden, and the second one is $75,000, which is for Germany, respectively. Okay, then we move on. The total earnings made. So in the first point there, I have talked about dishwashers. So now I'm going to talk about kettles. And once more, I have to talk about kettles in terms of the two countries. In the previous point, I talked about dishwashers, and I talked about that in regards to the two countries. Remember, Sweden exported more than Germany, which was around 150,000. Okay? Now, I move on to kettles. The total earnings made from the export of kettles by Germany were double that of Sweden, which was only 75,000. Okay, so the total earnings made from the export of kettles by Germany were double. Okay, they were double. If you look at the bar chart, you notice that Germany made $150,000 from their export of kettles. Yet Sweden made only $75,000. So it was double. Okay, so the total earnings made from the export of kettles by Germany were double that of, twice as much, okay, that of Sweden, which was only, I'm using the word only here because it is a very small amount compared to how much Germany actually made. Okay, now, so that's how you should write your body paragraph number 3. Now let me give you some few tips to ensure that you do this correctly and get yourself a band 7 or a band 8. The very first thing that you have to do is you have to divide your bar chart details into 2 logical categories, one for each paragraph. In my case, I divided them into cookers, refrigerators, and microwaves on one side, and on the other side, I had dishwashers and kettles. Tip number 2, write each paragraph based on the items that you have identified for each category. To introduce each item, like in my case, cookers, I used with reference to cookers, in regard to microwaves, okay? The next point, try and ensure that for each of the items, you compare them in terms of the two countries. In the first case, with reference to cookers, I compared that in terms of Germany and Sweden. Germany earned more than Sweden. And then when I moved on to refrigerators, I used the connector or the linking word but, because in that case, it was the opposite, because Sweden took the lead in terms of the export of refrigerators. Okay? Now, the next thing that is extremely important is that you use linking words, okay, correctly. If you look at the first paragraph that we have there, with reference to cookers, Germany earned 50,000 more than Sweden, but, so I'm now about to flip the coin. So look at the other side. So I have the linking word there, but, okay? And then I have as opposed to. So that's also the other side, okay? But Sweden took the lead in terms of the export of refrigerators, having made $150,000 as opposed to Germany, who earned $50,000. Then I'm about to introduce the next item I use in regard to, okay? And then I have to compare both countries. So I use then compared to, okay? In regard to microwaves, Germany nearly tripled their earnings, making around $200,000 US dollars compared to Sweden. Okay? And then in the next paragraph, because the idea is that the two paragraphs should kind of be contrasted. So in the next paragraph, I began the paragraph with on the other hand. But remember, the only reason I was able to do that is because I ended the previous paragraph with one country being on top, and that is Germany. So in the next paragraph, Sweden has to take lead. All right? So on the other hand, Sweden exported more dishwashers. So be very careful when you're choosing your categories. Remember, tip number 1, divide your bar chart details or information into 2 logical categories for each. Be very careful when you're dividing them into 2. There must be some logic in it, okay? Now, if you found this lesson useful at all, if you have learned something new from this lesson, if this lesson has helped you in any way, please subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up and share this video with anybody that may need it on all your social media platforms. Have you done that? Okay. Now, thank you very much. And remember, if you're watching this video as your very first video, then it's very important that you look at the first lesson on Writing Task 1, the bar chart, where I talked about how to write the introductory paragraph and also how to write the overview. Because remember, you are supposed to write 4 paragraphs when it comes to your Writing Task 1. And it should be a total of 150 words. And you have about 20 minutes or so to be able to do that. So you have to do it pretty fast, okay? Now, if you have any questions, feel free to write that in the comment section. And if you have any feedback, if you enjoyed this lesson, if you learned something new, then please just write me a comment that will cheer me up, and see you in our next lesson. Bye bye.